They robbed her. Yeah, I said it. They flat out robbed her. And if you watch Jaida Parker versus Blake Monroe on February 10th, 2026, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because that wasn't just a match. That was a statement. That was a war. That was a collision of pride, ego, and raw, unfiltered rage inside an NXT ring that barely survived the aftermath. And before we break down every single moment of that chaos, answer me this in the comments. Who do you think truly walked out the better competitor that night, Jaida Parker or Blake Monroe? Because by the end of this video, you might change your mind. The bell hadn't even rung yet, and the tension was suffocating. Jaida Parker stood in her corner like a coiled spring, chin high, eyes locked, jaw clenched. There was no smirk this time, no playful swagger, just laser focus. Across the ring, Blake Monroe. Cool, calculated, almost smug. And that smirk? Oh, it said everything. It said, I'm in your head. It said, you're emotional. It said, you're about to make a mistake. But here's the thing about Jaida Parker. She feeds off disrespect. Quick question for you. Do you think being underestimated makes a wrestler more dangerous, or does it cloud their judgment? Because what happened next answered that loud and clear. The bell rings. No lockup, no feeling out process. Jaida charges. Not walks, not circles, charges. Blake barely ducks under the first wild forearm, and you can already feel it. This is not going to be technical. This is going to be violent. Jaida corners Blake immediately, unloading body shots like she's trying to break ribs, not win a match. The crowd explodes, and for a second, just a second, it looks like Blake Monroe is overwhelmed. But Blake doesn't panic. She slides out of the corner, yanks Jaida by the wrist, and slams her shoulder first into the steel post. And just like that, momentum shifts. Tell me this. How many times have we seen emotion cost someone a match? Because Jada's aggression, it was beautiful, it was explosive, but it was reckless. Blake Monroe begins dissecting that shoulder like a surgeon. Arm drags, hammer locks, a vicious stomp right on the joint. She wasn't just trying to hurt Jaida, she was trying to end her momentum permanently. And you could see the frustration building. Jaida tries to power out, tries to muscle through it, but every time she swings, Blake targets the arm again. Twist, drop, slam. That's ring IQ. And I need you to comment this. What's more important in a big match, power or strategy? Because on February 10th, strategy was winning early. But Jaida Parker isn't built to stay down. Midway through the match, Blake goes for a springboard crossbody. Beautiful elevation, perfect timing. But Jaida catches her midair, deadlift position, and slams her so hard the entire ring shakes. That right there, that's a turning point. The crowd shifts. You feel it in the noise. You feel it in the way Jaida stands up slower, breathing heavier, but looking angrier than ever. She doesn't just hit Blake with offense, she punishes her. Short arm clothesline, snap suplex, running hip attack in the corner that nearly folds Blake in half. And when Jaida hits that spinning back fist, you could swear it knocked Blake's soul out for a split second. 2 count. Only 2. Now here's where things get controversial. Blake Monroe rolls out of the ring. Smart move. Buy time, reset, regroup. But Jaida doesn't wait. She runs the ropes and launches herself through them with a suicide dive that wipes Blake out on the outside. And that's when the match stops feeling like competition and starts feeling personal. They're brawling on the floor, not wrestling, brawling. Forearms, shoves, trash talk you can almost read on their lips. And here's a small trivia moment for you. How many times has a February NXT episode featured a match that spilled into the crowd area? Drop your guess below, because this one almost did. Blake rakes the eyes. The referee misses it. Jaida stumbles, and Blake slams her shoulder first into the steel steps again. That same shoulder. You see where this is going? Back in the ring, Blake slows it down. Submission hold, wrenching the arm back at a sick angle. Jaida screaming, not dramatically, but in frustration. She refuses to tap, refuses. And that's when the crowd starts chanting her name. That moment, that's what separates contenders from stars. But Blake isn't intimidated. She transitions into a crossface variation, driving her knee into Jada's spine. Let me ask you something real quick. Would you rather see a clean, technical masterpiece or an emotionally charged fight like this? Because this wasn't pretty, it was gritty. Jada claws to the ropes, barely makes it. The referee forces the break. And Blake slaps her. Not once, twice. That slap echoed, and Jada's expression changed. No more frustration, just fury. She explodes up, shrugs off the pain, and starts throwing bombs with her good arm. Right hands that snap Blake's head back, a spine buster that nearly gets 3. The referee's hand was inches from the mat. 2.9, and you could see it on Jada's face. Disbelief. Now here's where the match becomes unforgettable. Blake Monroe attempts her finisher. She hooks Jada, spins, but Jada counters mid-rotation and drops Blake with a brutal backbreaker. She screams. The crowd screams. Jada sets up for her own finisher. The entire arena arises. This is it. She lifts Blake, but the shoulder gives out. Just slightly. Just enough. Blake slips behind. Roll up. Feet on the ropes. The referee doesn't see it. 1, 2, 3. And just like that, it's over. Or at least it should have been. Let's pause here. Did Blake Monroe win fair and square? I need you to answer that honestly, because technically, yes, but morally, that's where things get heated. Jada sits in the ring stunned, shoulder wrecked, breathing heavy, eyes wide. Blake rolls out smirking, barely able to lift her arm in victory. And that's when the replay hits. Feet on the ropes. The crowd erupts in boos. Blake doesn't care. She laughs. And Jada sees the screen. Now imagine being Jada in that moment. You gave everything. You powered through pain. You had the match won. And it gets stolen. She stands up slowly. The anger radiating off of her is unreal. Blake starts walking backward up the ramp, clapping sarcastically. That clap? That was gasoline on a fire. Jada storms toward the ropes like she's ready to chase her, but the shoulder stops her. And that visual right there, the restrained fury, might be the most important image of the night, because this isn't over. Not even close. Let's break down what this match did for both women. For Blake Monroe, this solidified her as one of the smartest competitors on the roster. She survived a powerhouse, exploited an injury, and capitalized on a single mistake. But here's the catch. Now she has an enemy who feels robbed, and nothing is more dangerous than someone who believes justice was taken from them. For Jaida Parker, this loss might be the best thing that ever happened to her. Why? Because sympathy creates connection. The crowd saw her fight. They saw her resilience. They saw her nearly win despite the odds. And when that 3 count hit, the boos weren't for her. They were for Blake. Quick question for you. Do you think being underestimated makes a wrestler more dangerous, or does it cloud their judgment? Because if that crowd reaction was any indication, Jada's stock just skyrocketed. Now let's talk about performance. Blake Monroe showed incredible ring awareness. Her timing on counters, elite. Her targeting of the shoulder, consistent and ruthless. Jaida Parker displayed raw athleticism and intensity that can't be taught. But the biggest highlight? The storytelling. Every move had purpose. Every counter had consequence. Every facial expression told you exactly what was at stake. This wasn't filler. This wasn't just another Tuesday night match. This felt like the beginning of something bigger. And if you stayed with me this far, here's a fun one. How many mere falls did Jaida Parker score in this match? Was it 2, 3, 4? Drop your answer below before you go back and rewatch it, because yes, you're going to want to rewatch it. Let's talk about that shoulder spot again. Some people are saying it was overplayed. Others are saying it was masterful psychology. Where do you stand? Because in my opinion, that subtle moment when her arm gave out during the finisher attempt, that's what made this match special. It wasn't dramatic. It was realistic. And that's what hurts the most. Jaida didn't lose because she wasn't good enough. She lost because her body failed her at the worst possible second. And Blake Monroe, she was ready. Always ready. Now imagine the rematch. No injury, no shortcuts, no feet on the ropes. Just straight up one-on-one. Who wins? And be careful how you answer, because the way this rivalry is shaping up, that rematch might headline. There's something poetic about how this unfolded. Jaida Parker, the powerhouse fueled by emotion, Blake Monroe, the tactician fueled by calculation. Emotion versus intellect, strength versus strategy, heart versus mind. Which one do you think usually wins in wrestling history? Drop that in the comments too, because February 10th wasn't just about who got their hand raised, it was about identity. Jaida Parker proved she can hang with anyone. Blake Monroe proved she'll do whatever it takes. And in this business, sometimes whatever it takes is enough. But here's the danger for Blake Monroe. When you win like that, you don't just gain a victory, you gain a target. And Jaida Parker doesn't strike me as someone who forgets. The look on her face as Blake walked away, that wasn't sadness, that wasn't defeat, that was a promise that next time there won't